Hello, how's everybody doing out there? I hope you're all doing great. My photographer apparently needs certain conditions before this, so it's a little false start, but here we are. Yes, thank you, Eddie Leibowitz. Do you know what I'm saying? And we're back. So, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're all staying safe, and I hope you're all being healthy. So, wow, this mannequin has given us a lot of gifts, right? Right. Today, because, so you know, actually there's a classic Pixie already filmed up on the website, up on Broom Street Society's YouTube channel. So you can check that out there. Everybody that's associated with that organization, you just check it out. It's up there for you to look at. However, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a Pixie with a disconnected top. All right, and we're gonna have that longer side, longer top, and the short sides and back. I'm also going to, in the interest of utilizing this mannequin as best as possible, we're not going to square layer the shorter underneath bit. What we're going to do is we're going to square graduate it, right? And you'll be able to see how then that builds up more of a head shape, more support for the top, and actually allows for a different type of movement, and also will adjust for a certain type of head shape, which is a head shape that has very non-prominent parietal bones. Now, before we got started, I'm already sectioned off. So Una, here, move it in. So see, there you go. That's the disconnection on the top. So what I did was, as always, separated out left from right, front from back. I took two lines here till they connected with there. Then I took a little triangle that took out what the crown area is. You don't want too much of this. So this just is what would encompass the crown. It isn't overly large so that it gets heavy and spills over onto the sides, not the vibe. Also, these in the front bits that go to the separation of front to back, they are positioned above or slightly above the parietal bone. Why? I've mentioned this before. In disconnection, if this disconnected part is below the parietal bone, it'll always flip and flop to the sides, and it'll just look like a Lord Fauntleroy type of haircut, right? It look like Prince Valiant. So that's why when you do above the wide of the head with your disconnection, you wind up having a lot more freedom in where you can style it left, right, back. You can pop it up. You can do all those kind of things without it spilling over onto the sides because of gravity. And if it's below the wide of the head, gravity will take over, and that's what's going to happen. All right, cool. So first section, I'm starting in the center back. First thing I want to do is I want to dip the head forward a little bit. It'll help me work out my technique. First section, what I do is I'll anchor my knuckles, see, right at the occipital. See how this is anchored at the occipital? So I go to finger length. But see how this is creating graduation, right? So we're back to the graduation theme, right? There. There. And you know me, I never take for granted that I'm done cutting the hair, so I go all the way to the bottom until I'm sure, and then especially with the first guide section, I reverse engineer it to make sure it's precise. Once that guide is precise, as I've been preaching to you throughout this quarantine experience, once that is right, then it's a major, it's a compass for where the heads is, where the client moves, all these various different things. So once I have that right, I know that the rest, once that guide is right, it's the foundation of the rest of the haircut. If that's sloppy, it's only going to get sloppier from there. So that really has to be on point. It'll lend to the precision of the entire rest of the technique. Next section. Here, Una, move close. There. So the next section, section 2, we will be what we do with square layers, over-directing to the previous. So this section will be over-directed to the parting of the previous. And that's how we will create our square, yeah? So why don't I do this? Better, right? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Yeah. I've really been trying as hard as I can to maximize your experience with these mannequin heads. and I thought that this would be the best way to do this. This pixie with a disconnected top, it's a very relevant haircut. A lot of people ask for it. I've been cutting these, well, for my entire career, actually, a version of it or one sort or other. The one thing I will say, though, is a pixie is a haircut. A pixie is a short, square layer on a woman. That's a pixie. Like this disconnected top is actually not a pixie. This is something else. Pixie is a haircut, just like graduated bob is a haircut. If you could change the dimensions if you want, but then it's not like classic graduated bob. It's like triangular graduation. All right. So this is a short square with a disconnected top. That's what this is, right? Because a pixie looks like Mia Farrow from Rosemary's Baby. That's a classic pixie. Anything different with longer fronts and all this stuff, that's a different thing that has shortness, femininity, and a disconnection that allows and lends itself to a certain amount of edge, if you will, right? Anytime you have some disconnection, it'll always add edge to your work, because the further that disconnection is from the other existing elements of the haircut, the edgier it will tend to look. The closer it is, the more salon suitable it will tend to look. All right? So, and again, you can all check out that Pixie tutorial as well. That is up on the YouTube for Broome Street Society, assuming you work at Broome Street Society. I think that it's a really important haircut, the classic Pixie. I learned so much about hair, about head shape, about everything in learning that technique. And I have to tell you something. It is so difficult to conceptualize a box on a round head. That in and of itself was a lesson worth learning. Because then at that moment, that allowed me to be able to conceptualize a lot of other things too that I would need to, yeah? So see there. Square. Next section. And remember me, I always go until I run out of hair, but remember, when we're working a square, everything is coming back to this comb. Back, straight back. See this? Like that. None of this. If I'm over there, it's round. It's got to be straight back. Boom, like that. So if you have a wall in your house, make sure you're always combing it to the wall or the door or whatever. That's a flat surface. That's how you always make sure that your technique is on point. If you're cutting in front of a mirror and you're utilizing your square technique, if you're here and you look at the mirror and the mirror is straight in front of you and you can see your hand, you're not square. The head should be blocking your hand because you're always over-directing to the previous. It's another huge tip to staying square within your work as you're working this technique. I'm opening this up. I would probably recommend when you're doing this, you should work it like this. I would just have the mannequin head a little bit higher so that Una isn't like crawling around on the ground trying to film this. So that's why that is. So that I would tend to cut it like this, just so we're clear on the mechanics. Me going like this is opening it up. See how much lighter? Oh, look at the dark. Look at the light. Look at the dark. That's why I'm making the decision, not because this is the way, because look at my wrist. No good. Yeah? Cool. I know that's right. You can put a drink on that square. All right, now let's see. I make, because it's got longer through the front, I cut a triangular shape prior, right? So now I want to make sure that everything is checking into the cut. And would you look at that? My suspicions have proven to be correct. There was something up front hiding. You see, and as I operate this technique in this way, and as I complete each side, the shape becomes more and more clear to me. Which is even kind of interesting what that winds up doing, right? It's like even that doesn't look crazy, right? If I layered the sides a little bit, put a little bit of movement in there, fantastic. So these are all interesting things that you'll learn while you're en route to your final destination working these techniques, yeah? All right, now go to the right. There, section 2 goes where? Over directed to section 1, right? The parting in between section 1 and section 2. That is the previous. Not somewhere in the middle of the section, but in that parting between section 1 and 2, that is the previous. If you move into section 1, your guide section, you will be over-directing, creating what we call an over-directed concave. All right? If I bring everything to the center, the technique will not look like this. It will look like this, in which case I'll get a lot of weight behind the ears. So you really want to make sure that you lean this out so that it's not getting weighty back here, yeah? Cool. There, section out 2. And now I'm at number 3. There, and remember, I find it very important to always section out the new guide section so I'm not just combing hair at random. I want to make sure that I'm cutting the hairs that need to be cut. I want to make sure that my guide section is exactly where it is. I don't want my guide section to be sectioned like 1.5 and 2. It's imprecise. Once I take just the section that I've been working with prior, then I get some precision in my technique, right? See, section 3, there we go. Section 4. All the way straight back. Right? Boom. Straight back to the square plane. There you go. Oh, get another drink because I made another square table. What? All right, fantastic. Right? So that's how we'll check it, right? You just go up the head, comb out, and then you'll see square. Go out, square. See? And you want to do it at different elevations so you can check your technique. Okay? So up, out, different elevations. Okay? Super important. Cool? That's how you can check your technique as you go. Now, next section. Tilt the head upright so that I'm in command of what's going on. I'll also dip the head slightly away from me. It helps keep a graduated technique. When the head is straight, I'll tend to layer it. If I tilt the head away, it guarantees a square graduation. So my first section here will be right over the ear. That is the wide of the head when you are on the side. Okay, is right here. That's the sweet spot. That's how you'll have the wide. All right, now we're going to start losing some hair. Do a front view of this too, Una, so they could see the angle. And see, as always, see, just so you can see there. See? See how it gets longer through the top? I'll lean it out just a bit for balance. There. And my knuckles are against the ear. Remember how my knuckles were against the nape? So this is how I'm creating my perimeter. I will be able to detail that perimeter out if I so choose. Now, whenever I do this technique, I tend to go from there, and then I go forward, then I come back, and then I go back. So that's the way I'm going to do it for you today. You do it however you want. You want to go back? Great. I find for me, I don't know. It's just the method that I've done over the years, and it's my habit. Yeah? You can square this technique on the side if you feel like it. I just always like to start in the area that cuts the most so that I could see the most progress earlier on in the cut. That's my premise, right? So there, then section 2 gets over-directed to section 1. Or the parting in between section 1 and 2. If you notice, see how the hair is coming out like this? It's not coming out like that? Head is dipped to the side. That's why the hair is pitched at a little upward angle. That's straight out of the head. If I held it like this, that's actually dragging it down. All right? Now this is tricky. because now, remember, the head isn't a flat board. So as you go here, it starts rounding towards the face. So now, and I say this, I say this almost trepidatiously because then people be misunderstanding me. You're going to have like a millimeter of over direction to keep it square. If you literally over direct to the previous, you're over directing to a previous that's starting to slope forward, right? Because it's moving towards the face. So you have to do a smidge more over direction, but it's like a hair. It's not like over directing to the section. It's just a little bit of over direction to compensate for this bend as the head bends towards the face. Okay? So section 3, section 2, fantastic. A little bit of hair, little bit, teeny bit, just a millimeter worth of a little bit of extra over direction. Just a millimeter, a little bit. Yes. All right, see that line? That's square time, right? And obviously or not so obviously, the truth is over here too. Right? Whenever you're working this technique, only in the very, like right here, are you literally over directing to the previous. As you move over here, it's a hair or more. Over here, it's a hair more. Over here, it's a hair more. There, right in the center, it's flat. As you move around here and you're doing the back, it's a hair more. So it's subtle, but that's how you make up the difference in the rounding of the head to keep that box truly square and build up your corners, yeah? There, now, this is section 2. Now, as you see, I'm moving back. All right, boom, section 2, back to that initial first section. Section 3. This gets tricky, because now right here I'll be flying without a net. So I have to be really cautious or conscientious, shall I say, not cautious, conscientious, about where my trajectory of line is going. Una, film from behind, get in here. Okay. There. 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 See my guide? Where'd my guide go? See, that's when you got to remember where you were at so that you keep maintaining that same pitch. See that? So you have the same trajectory of line that you began. That's the trick. Okay? Next section, same thing, right? As the hair, we get more real estate behind the ear, the bottom of it will always have a little less of a guide. Right? So here we are. Square. See? There. Now let's see. I should have maybe a little bit left here. Now again, I'm only working here. If this starts moving over here someplace, that's round. That's where I'm working, right? Let's see. Yep, and sure enough, there's a couple of loose guys in there. Corner. All right? So that's how I know that my technique is on point when I see my corners, yeah? Now we flip to the other side. Tilt the head away again. Like I say, that head position can help guarantee your technique. All right? It'll help you because you will tend not to cut like that. Right? You'll cut like that, and that automatically creates graduation. Right? Every tool that we can have in our arsenal to keep our technique on point, we should use. And oftentimes, that tool has to do with actually the positioning of your client's head. All right? There. Now, something that I know someone in here is asking who is watching this video, how did I get a balance from this side to that side, right? Great. Well, how I did it in this instance is I just created a graduated line. My knuckles were on the ear. They're on the ear here. If I do that, it's the same thing. Balance like the scales of justice, right? So, however, right, if I was a little bit longer, half an inch longer, you could take a piece here, hold it at this, take a piece here, snip it, and that'll be your guide going down. That's one way you could do it. Or you could just figure out where are your corners, right? Once you pay attention, and this is going to be like kind of mind-bending for you as you're learning this, but once you understand where the weight needs to go with those corners, you'll never have to check balance doing a square ever again. Because what you're doing, to be quite honest with you, here, I'm gonna blow your mind right now. Actually, I rarely cut a truly symmetric square. Why not? I'm trying to create a symmetric haircut that's an expansion of an asymmetric template being the head. We all know nobody's head is perfectly symmetric. So if I did 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, and 2 inches, actually, that's not going to be a symmetric haircut. Because it's just an expansion of a head where maybe this side's a little higher than this side. Maybe this, do you understand what I'm saying? So once you understand where the corners are, that's when you truly create something around an imperfect template that is truly balanced. And now I can start to create from that place. All right? Take practice, and again, it's like it's all visualization with it, but that's the trick. All right? Pay attention. Where are the corners? That's all you need to figure out. Once you know where the corners are at, and you understand where they're supposed to flow or where they're supposed to go, can't lose. There. Another thing I'm doing right here, see how I'm angling a little bit forward? That's the way they put the mannequin hair. So if I don't do that, it's going to pop, right? You know how I always teach you, always honor the movement or growth pattern of the hair slightly. This is going to be one of those moments so that I can make sure that my technique is on point and that everything is actually like landing where I want it to land as opposed to where I wish it would land in two different places, right? There. There. And that little slight bit of over direction, that little hair that is just slightly past the previous, right? So that we compensate for the rounding of the head. Square. There. Now I take that initial section and we go back. I can smell the sauce, Una. We're gonna have to stir that. What? I'm just.
Smells so good.
So, while I've been in quarantine, I've been cooking all kinds of goodies. So yes, and I've been growing a nice fluffy belly. It's so fabulous. So sauce tonight, but this is what we're doing in between sauce. There we go. See, there we go. Section 2, section 3, over directed. See how it's starting to turn. See how I'm gonna move into a place with more real estate. So I got to pay attention to my trajectory of line so I can continue it moving all the way down. Stand there and film it, Una. And then they can see where I'm going. Can you see it, Una?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. go. Boom, 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 boom. See? No guide, but I'm still going because I remembered my trajectory. See, a little something there, but that's from the previous haircut, actually. So boom, boom, boom. Scale that off. All right, there. Next section. Never taking for granted that you run out of hair. I really cannot stress that enough. Something else that I'm noting too, when I take my sections, there's something interesting with how much control I have in my section. Do you see how I'm literally moving the mannequin head with the way I'm holding the section? That's the type of control I have with it. All right? Now, maybe I'm a little bit crazy with it, but that's the way I was taught to cut, and that's the way I've been able to get equal tension throughout the entire section, right? So you want to make sure you got something, you're holding it like you mean it. You know, don't be holding it by accident. You know what I'm saying? Then we lift, we comb up, bam, corner time, right? So I know we're good, right? And I know this because also the corners aren't too wide out and they're not too narrow. That's another thing you'll be looking for. Corners that are too narrow. See, that's the positioning and the magic of the corners, is to position them so that they're not too in, creating too lean of a back, and not too wide, creating some crazy elephant neck back. You know what I'm saying? So you want to, that's the importance of understanding where that is, and it's always in relation to the neck, relation to the head shape. All of it all plays a part. All right? Now, done with the underneath. Now I take the top. I think I'm gonna make this kind of dramatic, actually, since this since this mannequin has treated me so well throughout this quarantine. You know, boom, boom. Give her something jazzy. You know. There we go. Popping, give popping, right? Now here, this is interesting. So now this area here is ultimately, I choose to take that area, that little triangle, so that I'm not surprised by a growth pattern that happens to the crown, which happens for everybody's crown. So I don't start connecting it to here. I hold it straight up, and if it needs connecting, then I will do it. What also I will do in this instance is, see, I'm creating another type of guide. See, and now I'm cutting at a little bit of a pitch forward, right? Because in this moment, I want the front to be, to really pop. I want to pop it, right? So I want to make sure that I leave enough length there, right? And remember, you know, as I said, I think last time, and Una made fun of me, it's always better to have and not need than to need and not have, especially with hair cutting, right? We can cut it, can't grow it. So I'll leave it a little longer, I'll look at it, and then I'll see what's happening, right? Is it falling where I want it to? I can always cut it back a little bit, that's fine. You know, but the one thing I can't do is add it. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm looking at that, okay, it's a little dramatic, you know, and I can always piece it out to here if I want to. It's there. You know, once it's not there, then I got a problem, right? So for me, knowing that I want the top disconnected anyway, I'm fine with it. Make sense? Cool. Now, next section, vertical straight, vertical through the top, and I will be over-directing everything to the previous. There's a lot of different disconnections that you can do at this moment. I'm just keeping it square, you know, even though I'm doing all different kind of angles and square graduation, etc. And, you know, you can cut a bias through the top. That's another form of graduation where you cut like it into like a V, an upside down V. So then that really allows a lot of swing back and forth. You can cut it like that. You can cut it really head hugging so that it really like this, and then the front will really like lay on her head really nicely, and then you can piece that out. It could work too. So it depends on how you want the effect to be. You know, I wanted something a little bit looser, more fun. I don't know. I didn't want it. In this last one, I am of the opinion that everything that I've cut for you in this COVID-19 quarantine time has been quite salon appropriate. I mean, I know that I have cut every single haircut that I have taught you during this time on an actual client. So there you go. Either that or I'm just crazy and I'm just cutting whatever the hell I want, which I know isn't the truth because people aren't yelling at me. You know what I'm saying? So this one though, I wanted to get a little edgier with it. I wanted to give you a little bit of a gift of some edginess, some creativity. And at the end, I'm going to detail it, and I want you all to detail it the way you're going to detail it. I want you to have fun with it. If you want to take the front shorter, take it shorter. I'm cool with that. You know, do whatever. Have fun with it. Have some vision. All right. As I said last time, and I think this is important. The one thing I won't do, and it's not because I'm hiding anything. I'm showing you what I'm cross-checking, and I mean you can see the lines, right? So the lines are the line. Proof is in the pudding. Look, boom. What? Square, yeah, what? You know what I'm saying? Right? So it's there, all right? And the one thing that I don't want to do is cloud your mind with how I'm detailing a mannequin head, because the way I detail a mannequin head has nothing to do with the way I would ever detail a person. So I go about it, I play around with it, I move the head, I pull out pieces, I slice it. That's mannequin head detailing. On a woman, I would lay it flat on their face. I would actually be cutting it out to hit bone structure, lips, jaw, whatever I'd be doing, which is super different than this. That's why I don't film it, because it's not worth filming, because it's not a learning tool at this point, unless you're going to like have a career cutting mannequin heads, which you're not. So there you go. Yeah? Great. So I reestablished the first section. Now we go to section 2, right? Section 2 gets over directed to section 1. The one thing that you'll be surprised about the back with that disconnection is how much that back with it left disconnected, it actually fills in. Rarely do I find that I ever actually have to connect it in with the rest of the back. Frankly, it doesn't even look disconnected. And you'll see it at the end of this too. It's one of the mysteries of this life, you know, is how that winds up happening. But it always, at 99.9% of the time it does. Very rarely have I had to be like, okay, let's connect it in. Because it's like making some weird overhang tail. It usually winds up in the back, turning into what's classified as an invisible disconnection, not a visible disconnection like what's going on in the front. Invisible disconnection. Visible disconnection is disconnection that you utilize for effect. Want to see it? This is short. Ooh, that's the money piece. You know, that's visible disconnection. Invisible disconnection is stuff that's disconnected from the rest of the haircut, but you don't know it's disconnected because it's disconnected because it's allowed to be so that you have extra give because of growth patterns and things like that. That if you cut it at the same length of the rest of the haircut, it would pop, it would split, it wouldn't behave for you. It needs more length because length is weight, and in haircutting, weight is control, yeah? So that's why the purpose of invisible disconnection versus visible disconnection. And generally speaking, the back always turns into an invisible disconnection, and interestingly enough, I could see it happening before my very eyes in this haircut, just like it has in so many others prior to this magical moment. Boom. I'm gonna get it so they know I'm not fronting. Bam! What? You see, I was trying to balance it. You know what I'm saying? It's tight, right? So anyway, so there's that right there, and then to that point, look at the back. You can't see anything. You can't see that it's disconnected. Yet, it is. See? There's the back graduation, and there's the disconnection. And when we let it go, look, it all fills in. Like magic. Great. So, there we are. Ooh, she's letting you have it, too. Hang on for 1 second. Watch. Ooh, giving you mystery. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? There we go. Boom. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to detail... Uh-oh, what? You know that's right. Anyway, right? So now I'm going to detail it out a little bit, style it for you, and then show you the end result and wind this down. All right? I hope you dug this one. Like I say, I must tell you, this is a cut... I made a lot of money over 2 decades with the premise and the techniques behind this cut. Let's leave it at that. And I've used it on a number of photo shoots, and I've used this idea a lot. It pops. There's a lot of artistry in it because when it comes to a real person, you can really detail out from growth patterns, what's lacking, what's not. You can carve out around the ears and create really dramatic pieces through the sides. You can carve out around the face, leaving dramatic. Let me do my thing. I'm gonna fill you in on what I do. I'm gonna try and really create something really kind of cool that hopefully the mannequin hair doesn't jack up for me. All right? Cool. See y'all in a second. Later. Hey everybody, so I'm back. Here she's done, right? So as you can see, I styled this one a little bit rougher. It's a little bit more fun. Hand styled, did a little flat iron curl work back. As you can see where the disconnection lies, but you can see how it covers everything on the underneath. You can also see, look. See how that pops right on top of it? It's like, what? What shorter bit? Nothing. And if you really look at the side, look at the profile, how that really winds up filling it in, right? See, this is something that I find happens a lot with pixie shapes, is it's taken in like this, and then up here it's really flat. I think you all know what I'm talking about, or if you don't, just pay attention next time you see somebody with a shorter haircut. You'll see it'll go like this, and it's also like wham, like that, right? And it doesn't really do that really full flattering silhouette, so here you have it. One side, I kind of did a mixed medium. And I do this a lot in haircuts actually. So this side, see I have it pieced out. It's giving you softness, right? Boom, like that, right? Then see this side. See, I always do this for a surprise so you can rock different looks. This side, see, I carved it out right around her face. So see that? If it's over here, look how open her face would be. That's drama right there, right? But then when I lay it down, it's like, oh, look, I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? This is one of those things you can play around with when you do a disconnection that's covering up a whole area potentially. You can play with different looks on either sides with different types of detailing. Cops are coming for me again. 47. You know what I'm saying? It's still on the run. Anyway, right? So when I styled this, I really, you know, especially because it's a mannequin head, it would be a lot different if it was a person. If this was a person, literally just like this, and it would all just be great. You know, especially because I would cut it with the way the hair grows. This gets a little pokier, so I actually was like, I was brushing it down, combing it down, and following it on low with my blow dryer so that it wasn't on high, drying it too fast and whipping it out of control. Remember, and that is true, although we rarely have time to do it, when you want to style something, really, I mean, to style it perfectly, if you style it low and slow, with a blow dryer, to be honest with you, but who has 45 minutes to do a round brush? You know what I mean? But it's like the control of it will always lend itself to so much intention within every section. So anyway, that's what I wound up doing here. You can solve a lot of things like that when you turn it on low, like the pokiness of what's underneath here. So this is the pixie, or short square graduated with disconnected top. I hope you all have fun doing this. And oh, the other thing too, as you can see, I decided to carve out around the ears. That's something I'll do too. When it goes this short here, it looks kind of weird when you have stuff flopping over the ears, right? Here. All right, so that's generally a design element I'll utilize. If the hair on the sides gets to be maybe two, maybe a little bit longer than 2 inches, maybe I'll then leave it over the ears, but I'll always lighten it so it doesn't look like flaps. You know, like she's preparing for winter. Anyway, there you go. I hope you dig this cut. Like I say, you know, I've definitely used it on a lot of photo shoots. I've used it behind the chair for years. It's principles. And I find I can be highly creative with it. So, have a blast cutting it. Enjoy yourself with this one. If you want, after you're done with this and you style it, play with it. You know, really have fun. Detail it out. If you want, then you can tune into the pixie cut, and you can square off the top, and you can see what a Mio Farrow pixel looks like, because that's what it'll look like. Okay? Awesome. I hope you all dug it. I hope you all had fun cutting it, and I'll talk to you later. Later.